Greetings, fellow people of Earth. So, we're back today, and we were just revisiting Michael Steinbacher's work, The Pillar of Fire, Pillar of Smoke, where he steps up and starts to notice these features at the larger scale. Zooming out, he begins to go into his descriptions and even talks about how there's stories in mythology, but he was going back and even we came over to this spot. We took the current from down here in Antarctica. I think I said this goes to Australia, but I think it's this one over here off of this side. Anyway, the point was when we're looking at the map, we do see these giant features that jump out in distinct patterns that show something. And I was trying to explain this is a redistribution of charge across the Gaussian surface of Earth, but it all comes right back to this area. And you can see this is 2,377 miles long, but you can zoom out and it just keeps going and going, and it's when you get to this scale, it's stretching. Are we still going up? Yeah, like you're looking at, but then you just here carry over. So this was a global event. You see, this is much larger than. So I made it a point while I was becoming aware of the scars. I'm going back here and revisiting. That would have been July of 2018 when I first became aware. I eventually became aware of Michael Steinbacher's work later that year. Started to go learn some physics to explain what I was already seeing. And in this process, I came over and revisited some of Emanuel Velikovsky's work, like Michael Steinbacher had asked. I think one of the first, at that point, I already had this book in my collection. I had kind of skimmed through it and never really read it in full, to where now that I was actually seeing stuff on our Earth, this to me seemed like a great place to start. And he does, this is kind of like where I first started coming into the perspective of the catastrophist in opposition to the uniformitarian mentality, but at more of a scientific scale, whereas like just taking the mythology, that doesn't always translate into what we're seeing here. And I think that was the disconnect I was having, was so whatever happened here, I don't even, there's mythology about it, which I wasn't aware of a lot of it. But I had already started seeing when I went back over here to revisit this concept, certain things that kind of made sense in terms of what, I don't know how to describe it, but like you piece things together and one thing starts to make sense. It starts to show a pattern to what we have in the stories we tell, to where you get the idea of where certain concepts might come from, like if somebody's worried about falling off the face of the earth or whatever, but then if they were to even travel over to the other side, and then next thing you know, you're staring at a flaring red dwarf star you've never seen, or anything of the sorts. But going back and revisiting this book, I think you really start to see, when you take into consideration what was going on, where you have Like over here in the Himalayas, these are some of the highest mountains coming out of the surface, but what you also get is all this sea life that gets spread around here. And when you're just reading this book, you're not looking at the Earth, but when you're thinking about the Earth and coming over here, Emmanuel Velikovsky didn't have satellite images on his time. He didn't have internet or anything of that sort. He was just, that's why he, in my mind, he's a beast. But just challenging some of the concepts, whereas growing up, I was always taught one way in school, and when you look at these features, they don't look slow and gradual at all. And when you see distinct patterns that show redistribution of charge across a Gaussian surface. But what I liked about this too is he's kind of questioning some of the, when you come over to the Earth, and they're telling you all these features are created by glaciers. Like these are the patterns that you'd see from glaciation, but you can even see like distinct straight lines jump out at you at this scale, and you can see like a very distinct scale that's traveling throughout this, and then it kind of opens up and ripples up. But it's not like, none of these features exhibit anything what's going on here, and you can kind of see what's going on up here, over in here, and over in here. But we're just going to look at this for a moment and process how the uniformitarians think in this video, because what you see will come up in here. See this filament? It jumps in and out of the water, but you don't see any glaciation down here like you would expect, or whatever. This all falls in line with these striations, is the way that this is breaking up off of this. And it's kind of rippling off in here. This side shows like nothing at all. And then it starts to come in with these jagged, more jagged patterns. These are still flowing in. This is carving itself out. But normally they would attribute this to the ice flows and ice glaciation. This is how, I guess, but you can still see the striations within it, right? And now on this side it's still carving in, but then you get these carving in more. But up here it's like really prominent, whereas down here there's like none of that at all. And then this band over here, there's like none of this at all over here. These, they show it, but you got the largers coming in at pretty much the same scale with the smaller within, and then the same, but you can see a band over here. This band doesn't have any of this going on over here, just very faintly off to the side. And same thing up here, it's very straight. None of this is coming off and doing any of that onto this. All this water is receding like that. And then over here, still going on. Up here, not as much, but when you carve into this region, come up here, you got these bands. And again, you want me to zoom in? I can zoom in. There's like very little, if any, of that going on up here, where all of this is covered by ice. And it's all going in this region. But even when you look down on this strip, which is part of this filament, like a very little bit, very faintly, but nothing at this. I didn't mean to zoom out that far, but you keep going up, and here the ice starts to uncover, still going on up here, and it stops like right in here, and none of that is going on over here to create any of the effects, like very distinctly up here. These just, you can see the filaments running throughout it, but you have no more of that. Like this water doesn't want to carve down this end. But it would be the same process, right? If the glaciers are doing this, why aren't they doing it on this side? And just trying to wrap your head around, like, just this part. You can see the filament coming up in from the land. And I think we get some pictures maybe around here. Some people have some pictures to show us. Oh. See, this is up here. It's coming out from the land. And you can start to see some of the features. That's pretty cool. There was one area, like, I don't know how close to this actual spot it is, but look at how cool this is. There's like nothing here, but you would imagine the waters would be carving something like to do something similar, but it's really not. It's kind of just, you get some flows in here, but doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you like. And there's a lot of cool features that jump out at you, like this continues into the land for a ways, but you don't really notice what's happening until you jump out at a larger scale where you see whatever's acting on this is kind of acting on this, and then it's not acting on it over here or any of this. But then you see those, like, that same kind of this pattern up in these mountains. And you can come in, like, these are actually lakes that are forming, but these currents, it's like running through the land. It's not like this was carved by the waters. It's part of a larger event, it looks like. And that's where, so I was seeing it at this larger scale, and you can see this is the band that I'm talking about. In this scale, you got to consider the global event, but you also got to come back and you got to challenge your actual views for what they're telling you. And this is where I became more aware of the catastrophist perspective in opposition to the uniformitarian mentality. I'm going to talk a lot more about that. This is one of my influences in that, and there will be more. I'll go through more of those, and we'll do more in time. All right, thank you, everyone. Take care, and bye-bye.